Okay, y'all, here we go with the second of our 2 live podcast recordings that we did for our 2 holiday parties for 2025. Our first talk in Austin last Monday, December 8th, with Austin State Senator and Texas Comptroller candidate Sarah Eckhart, San Antonio State Senator Roland Gutierrez, and Austin City Council member Zoe Condrey is now a few clicks back on this podcast feed. Do refer back if you have not heard that. We had an equally great time in Dallas this last Monday night, December 15th, at the wonderful People's Last Stand in Mockingbird Station with Austin State Rep and gubernatorial candidate Gina Hinojosa, Austin State Rep and candidate for Texas Lieutenant Governor Vicki Goodwin, Texas Attorney General candidate Joe Jaworski, and Houston State Rep Gene Wu, all 4 of whom traveled into Dallas for our talk. And so we appreciate all of them on so many levels. Thanks again for the huge outpouring of support from you guys and the record-breaking attendance at both of our holiday events for 2025. We simply cannot do what we do without you. So we appreciate it very much, and happy holidays. And here we go with Dallas.
Okay, everybody, we're going to get started here. I hate to interrupt your electrifying conversations. We're sure they're great. My name is Chris Mosier. I'm the podcasting director for Progress Texas, and we are so proud to have every one of you guys here for our second holiday party. As we get ready for our panel to begin recording, would you please direct your attention to the video screens for a quick message all the way from Washington, D.C. from Progress Texas Institute Board Chair Louis Bedford IV.
Hello everybody, this is PTI Board Chair Louis Bedford. Wanted to be able to wish you all a happy holidays. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be with you all today. Up in DC, the work never stops. And I just wanted to say I'm so grateful and thankful to be a part of such an amazing organization with wonderful people as we're just trying to do some amazing work. So before I go, I just want to be able to give a quick shout out. I want to say thank you to Kathleen for all the amazing work that you're doing. I also want to say thank you to Chris. Also, thank you to Kathleen and to the rest of the Progress Texas team. And I know that there's a lot of terrible things going on right now, from eliminating the HUB program to even the Supreme Court allowing our state to be able to move forward with our racially gerrymandered maps. But fret not, there are so many organizations doing great work, which is the reason why I'm so grateful and thankful to be a part of the Progress Texas team. I know that there's a lot going on right now, but once again, we're doing this together, and I just know that I'm so looking forward to being able to see you all soon. Thank you very much, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Louis. So that was Louis Bedford, our C3 board chair. My name is Alex Andrade, our C4 board chair. And thank you. I just want everybody tonight to spend a little time after the panel getting to know our staff so you can know our work better. We have Haley in the corner over there. She does our really cool Instagram and TikTok presentations for getting the word out. We had 100,000 views for the Gavin Newsom event in Houston, 35,000 views for the voter guide, something that a lot of people use us for. Then we have, of course, Chris Mosier. If you don't already listen, he does not only a weekly podcast where you interview candidates, but a daily that gives you all the news you need to know in about 8 minutes. So if one of the things I'd ask everybody to do tonight is please spread our podcast, spread our socials so more people can hear about it. Then lastly, we have Tatum right over here. If you have questions about our advocacy program where we go testify for bills, she's the person. She's also our development person, so if you want to know how you can give more money, please talk to her. And that gets me to the last thing I want to say. I'd like everybody to go home tonight and cancel one streaming service that you don't use and then do $15 a month to Progress Texas. That's what we need, recurring donations, and you know you have one that you don't use. So cancel Peacock or Paramount. Please become a recurring donor. This is like NPR without the tote bags. So I want to get things started, introduce Kathleen Thompson, our last staff member, our executive director. I wouldn't be doing all this if I didn't believe so much in her, and she's just such an amazing leader. I'm excited for the program tonight, so enjoy.
Thank you, Alex, and thanks to everyone. This is going to sound a little familiar if you're a regular podcast listener. Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour. We're gathered in Dallas tonight for the second of our 2 holiday parties. Everybody give it up for our podcast panel. Featuring Representative Gina Hinojosa for Texas Governor, Vicki Goodwin for Lieutenant Governor, Joe Jaworski for Attorney General, and outgoing HDCC Chair Rep. Jean Wu. Thanks to you all for being here. We're now a week beyond the filing deadline that coincided with our first holiday party in Austin and the Jazzarico U.S. Senate Democratic primary, a term coined by our guest, Rep. Gina Hinojosa. Very good. Now, between 2 of the best communicators in the Texas Democratic Party, Reps. Crockett and Tallarico share Progress Texas's focus of spreading progressive values and affordability policies, which means a government that works for the people as far as possible, which will only help turn out young voters, working people, and the millions of Texans who sat out last year in 2024. A general election Democratic win is going to require so many more Texans turning out next year in our vote-suppressed state. So Democrats need all the attention they can get, and Jasmine and James know how to get it. Yeah. Starting with Houston State Rep and outgoing Texas House Democratic Caucus Chair Jean Wu. Thanks for making it up to Dallas today. Thanks so much for joining us. You are no stranger to the big tent of the Texas Democratic Party, needing to row all in the same direction. You brought national attention and engagement during the racial redistricting battle and the quorum break. For now, Rep. Wu, as a leader of the Texas Democratic Party, give us your impression of the final situation with the Democratic primary and what you would say about any of these races getting too hot before we face the real opponents next November.
I've not considered it worried about things getting too hot because I think Democrats could use a good primary fight. Democrats can use some time for people to see that we're not just running for an office, that Democrats are actually going to fight for things, that we have differences in opinion about what should be. And I think we should have a robust discussion about whether or not we have universal health care, whether college is free or not, whether we have student debt forgiveness, and all these different things that I still think that there is still a difference of opinion on in the party. And I don't think we're in a total agreement. And I think we should have that fight, and not just a fight that we see, but we want the entire public to see that Democrats up and down the line, what we care about every single day is that Americans do better. And our differences in opinion are about how we're going to make it better. And they need to see that, because what happened in 24? People punished Democrats because they thought, you guys never talk about anything except abortion and trans kids, right? We care about those things, but we are focused almost solely on making Americans' lives better. And this is an opportunity to do that.
As things stand now, the opponent that either Jasmine Crockett or James Tallarico will face in November could very well be our current Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who continues to outpoll incumbent Senator John Cornyn. And I'm hearing the boos and hisses for both, I'm sure. Let's hear next from Joe Jaworski, a longtime friend and supporter of Progress Texas, in the race for the Democratic nomination for AG. Joe, should you prevail in the primary, there's not much telling who your actual opponent may be next fall just yet. And it seems that as the Democratic nominee, you'll still be running against Ken Paxton in terms of how he has distorted the AG's office during his decade as the state's top law enforcement official. What's going to change with you in office?
What's interesting, Kathleen, is and I'm looking at the X posts and all the other social media, so you don't have to, of the Republicans who are running to succeed Ken Paxton. Did you know that Aaron Reitz, who has been endorsed by Ken Paxton, is using as a talking hit point on the other three that they all voted to conspire to impeach, or support the impeachment or conviction of Ken Paxton? That's actually Aaron Reitz's push. And so what I can tell you is that it's an open race. Let's just all remember this. This is the one open race, meaning the incumbent is not running for re-election for Attorney General. That's a big deal when you combine it with Trump's midterm, where he will historically get a serious clap back. And so what I'd say, Kathleen, is whoever the Republican nominee is, and I guarantee you there's going to be a runoff because there's 4 of them, and not one of them is going to get 50% plus 1 on March 3rd. So since Texas has the longest runoff in the nation, 75 days, it'll be late May before the Republicans, who have ruined each other's pelts at this point, will have their nominee. What I will tell you is that it is going to be an absolute spectacle for what the Republicans will say in the final 120 days or so during the hot summer of 26 to gain what they think will be their base's attention. And it's going to repel individuals who are reasonable voters. We are going to have a massive turnout in Texas for people to say, enough, this can't stand. And so as, hopefully, with your blessing, being the nominee, as the Democratic nominee for Texas Attorney General, I will stand there and ridicule these people in the name of all that is good and just.
If we're looking for change, and hell yes, we are looking for change, our 2 remaining guests tonight also represent a complete transformation of how the great state of Texas would be run, as they're seeking the top 2 positions in Texas's government. Austin State Rep Vicki Goodwin, also a longtime Progress Texas supporter, we're thrilled that we were part of your campaign launch. Along the same lines as Joe, tell us about the real-world differences that Texans would experience under a Democratic lieutenant governor in general and with you in office specifically.
Oh my gosh, it would be night and day. The difference between what is happening now with Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Patrick and the new day with Governor Hinojosa and Lieutenant Governor Goodwin. We would support our public education. We would not send $1 to private schools through a voucher scam. We would make sure that people aren't falling through the cracks when it comes to health care. Right now, Texas, a prosperous state, has the highest rate of uninsured. Now it's going to become even worse as the ACA subsidies are going away. So many people that I talk to these days say that they don't think that they can afford health care coverage anymore. We are going to make sure people aren't falling through the cracks by investing in programs like the mobile clinics that go out into communities where people don't have a primary care doctor, and they provide those diagnostic tests and prescriptions at a low cost. Programs that are proven. We are going to use data, we are going to use science, we are going to make sure that we are doing things that help all Texans. It's just going to be a totally different place in the Capitol.
I'm looking forward to it. And finally, what amazing and life-changing thing it would be for Texans to elect our first Democratic governor since the legendary Ann Richards. We're counting down. There's just 1 year until we can vote out Governor Greg Abbott, the current longest-sitting governor in the United States, and look at the damage that he has done to our state in 10 years. We'd be remiss to not mention that you can support Progress Texas and the path to 2026 by grabbing our Humans Against Greg Abbott merch to match your values for your favorite progressive on your list, even if that's you. We all know Greg's got to go, and that's why Austin State Rep Gina Hinojosa, we're so glad to have you complete this truly statewide panel. Give us your take on what Texas looks like with you in the governor's mansion.
So it will be a new day in Texas when I am governor. What I have learned in almost a decade serving in the Texas House is that most policy decisions that make their way to the floor of the House are driven by corruption. They are driven by a billionaire class of special interests who make money off of your taxpayer dollars. They are using the system against you with your own money. What I have decided after these 10 years is that the only way forward to serve Texans is to create a clean slate and build new. We need a fresh start. Clean slate, fresh start. And I'll give you an example. I work a lot on public education issues. I've been on the Public Education Committee for 2 terms now. I filed a bill this session to do zero-based budgeting with our state education dollars because after 30 years of one-party control, so much corruption is happening in the system that we just have to wipe the slate clean. We had a press conference, and I had MAGA moms stand with me at the Capitol in support of an idea where we take the vendor contracts, wipe them clean, first pay teachers their worth, because right now Texas teachers are paid $10,000 below the national average, and everybody knows that the best thing we can do for our kids is have a great teacher in the classroom. But why don't we do that? Why don't we do that if we all know that's the best thing we can do? Because no billionaire ever lined his pockets by paying teachers their worth. And that's the bottom line. So you pay teachers their worth, you have smaller class sizes, you take care of our kids in special education who aren't getting the education that they need because we undercut that spending so substantially, and school safety, a concern for every parent with their kids in public schools. Build back policy and education and budgets that serve the people of Texas and not the special interests. We can do that in every spending area of Texas, creating a government that works for the people of Texas.
Thank you. We're going to get to a couple of group questions that we'd like you all to answer tonight. And let's start with the biggest issue of this election, and that's the Trump Republican Party's complete and utter failure to do anything about the national affordability crisis. To be honest, failure is far too generous of an appraisal. The MAGA party has actively, cynically hijacked the American economy to benefit billionaires, tech bros, and foreign petro regimes with zero consideration for the average American, including the majority of their base voters. And it's looking like, once again, of the pattern of Democrats forced to clean up Republican economic disasters. But this is a really monumental mess we're in. Insurance rates are skyrocketing, groceries, utilities, and every other measure of cost of getting by in an ever-growing challenge for all but the wealthiest of Texans. Let's start with you, Rep. Hinojosa. What will that challenge look like, and what will Democrats be able to do to right the ship, considering that Trump will still be in office?
Well, I don't know if you all have noticed, but Trump does seem to respect strength, right? He doesn't mess with people who know what they are about and know what they're there to do. And that's what we have to be. We have to unapologetically lead for Texans. And I believe that when we do that and we stand up for the people of Texas, unlike our governor who bows down to Trump, who has no respect for himself, much less for the position and the service of Texans, when we have a governor who stands up for Texans, I do believe Trump backs off, right? Because bullies respect strength. And that's what we have to be. We have to be strong in our values, unapologetic in the work that we do for Texans.
Rep. Goodwin.
So I love that Trump says that affordability is a word that Democrats made up, right? Because everybody knows affordability is an issue. And so he looks like an idiot once again. Nothing new. But we know when we go to the grocery store, we know when we go to the doctor, we know when we get our utility bills, we know affordability is an issue. The interesting thing in Texas is that, well, now Trump and Dan Patrick is copying him with these, what I call baby accounts, right? Wanting to give money when babies are born, to put in some account. Now, in Texas, we are notorious for creating these accounts and then not using the money in those accounts. We've had the TERP Fund, the Texas Emissions Reduction Program, that for years and years we didn't spend the money to clean our air. Same thing with the opioid abatement fund. Same thing with the flood infrastructure fund. We have a lot of money in Texas, but we make it impossible to access that money and use it. And then what happens is our cities and counties have to pick up the slack. And how do? They do that by raising the property tax. And then homeowners are saying, why in the heck are my property taxes going up? And of course, the governor and lieutenant governor are talking about either eliminating or continuing to decrease our property taxes, which pay for our schools. They have horrible ideas. We are going to come in with great ideas. Texas is a prosperous state. We can do it.
Joe?
So, the Attorney General's office in 2027, when I take the oath with your blessing, is going to have an affordability division. And what it's going to have is dedicated employees whose job it is to put money in your pocket. And what that means is every day they're going to be thinking about ways to contest utility rate raises at the PUC. They're going to be part of the litigation team that sues the governor if it's, well, not you, but sues the comptroller if we don't have righteousness and good people in the office, to reverse the voucher program and to enforce the requirement in the Texas Constitution, which we office holders take a primary oath to protect and defend above any law the legislature may pass, so that the legislature finally funds public education to the tune that it should and should have for the last 30 years. That is affordability, because your school district tax bill, if you happen to be a homeowner, is jacked up about 4 times as much as it should be. And then also insurance. I mean, I know we have to pay our rate every month, our premium every year, so that what? We get treated like dogs when it's time to make a claim? Or is it so that the CEOs make $35 million annual profits? It's just wrong. And I could go on, but the Attorney General's office can have a direct impact on putting money back into the popular pocket, and that's what the affordability division will focus on.
Rep. Wu?
So I think, look, the thing to take away from this conversation is that the affordability crisis has solutions, and the solutions are the same things that Democrats have been fighting for all these years. Democrats have been fighting for working class Texans for decades and decades without getting the credit for it. Why didn't this stuff get stuff done in the past? Because Republicans blocked it every single time, right? We have fought for these items over and over again that make life affordable. And I want to be really clear about this, and I think the message that needs to go back from y'all to everyone who's watching, back to your communities, is the affordability crisis is a manufactured crisis. This is not some unintended consequence of some mistakes that we made. Where we are today and why Americans can't afford anything, it was intentionally created, because for the last 50 years, we have been slowly defunding everything that the government does, taking away benefits that we used to pay for together and keep cheap. Instead, we said, here, privatize this shit, right? And then when you privatize it, make profit from it. Milk the people for every penny they have. Nickel and dime them until they're dead. And over again, when we say, like, we're fighting for minimum wage, all these things that would have helped. Why didn't they do those things? Because they need to keep everyone poor. Because when you're poor and you have nowhere to go, you just keep working. It doesn't matter how much you suffer. You have no choice. You have to keep a roof over your head. You have to put food on the table. So Texans are forced into these situations where they can never escape. And on one hand, they're making it so that the rich people don't have to pay taxes. On the other hand, they're making it so rich people don't have to pay you. And so we're now stuck in a bag where we have to pay for all the costs of government ourselves. At the same time, our income is lower than it's ever has been. This is an intentional public policy decision, and we can say no, right? This group of people right here are telling you we're going to say hell no. And by the way, can I shout out my very good friend and desk mate for a long last time, Chris Turner, Say Rep. Chris Turner in room.
Thanks for being here, Rep. Turner. And this isn't in my notes, but somebody else just walked in who is my very smart and handsome 16-year-old son. And he just got his first part-time job and came home and said, "Mom, how is the pay so low?" And we had a long conversation about minimum wage and why it hasn't been raised in years, and how he's not supporting a family on a minimum wage job. And so I would love to hear all Democrats running this year talk about minimum wage. Look at the success that was made in New York City. Yep. We have to talk about policies that work for working people.
Yeah, hell yes, hell yes.
Representative Goodwin, would you start us from here? Republicans would love for us to turn away from the economic disaster that they've driven our nation and state into with a multi-pronged, continued culture war. Attacks on education, all the way from private school vouchers and Christian nationalist curriculum impacting our youngest kids, through Texas high schools about to be forcibly indoctrinated with Turning Point USA clubs, all the way up to our universities under conservative ideological takeover. The racist immigration crackdown, the continued denial of basic bodily freedom of women, the continued epidemic of gun violence. Honestly, it's too much for one question. But give us your take on how we turn the conservative culture war back while keeping our eyes on the prize. And that's a Texas where we don't just survive, but we live and we thrive.
Well, as Lieutenant Governor, I will have the ability to shape what the agenda is, right? The Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker have an incredible amount of power and authority over the legislature. So we are going to focus, we are going to figure out how we solve the problems, not create problems. You know, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick right now cares more about putting the 10 Commandments on the classroom wall than putting resources into the classroom. That is not how it will be under Lieutenant Governor Goodwin. There are a lot of bills that have passed the House that didn't ever pass the Senate. And I'm just going to give a quick example of a couple of Republican bills that were bipartisan passed through the House on gun violence prevention. Most people find that really odd because they don't think that Republicans care about that issue. But in 2023, there was a representative that passed a ban on Glock switches in the Texas House, got over to the Senate. Dan Patrick sat on it and didn't do anything with it. That was the Dallas Police Department's #1 priority because Glock switches allow guns to rapid fire. They are on the streets. Law enforcement wants them off the streets. So why couldn't we get that passed? Because of Dan Patrick. Another one was the straw purchase bill. We always complain about how guns get into Mexico, the cartels. Well, that's through straw purchases. Again, a Republican author on that bill got it passed through the House. It went to the Senate, and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick sat on it. We are going to make sure that we are working on sensible legislation that saves lives, that helps Texans, whether it's the economy, whether it is education, healthcare. Again, it's going to be night and day.
Go ahead, Joe.
The attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion, 3 beautiful words in the English dictionary, is unconscionable. And the Republicans are getting away with murder. Good people who want to fight that sentiment turn away because they just don't want to be part of the ugliness, and they just hope someone will come to the rescue of decency. Just like happened the last time we had one of these red scares when Joe McCarthy was demonizing and pulverizing people in the public square until one man said, "After long last, Senator, have you no shame?" 2026 will be that moment for the Republican Party. They're going to meet their match. Here's my promise to you. As Texas Attorney General, I will have the privilege of leading an agency that has well over 4,000 employees, 800 or so of which historically are lawyers. Well, it's the largest law firm in the state, as well as a massive employment agency. And so the best way to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion is to hire black, brown, Asian, Muslim, and white employees, put them to work and let them lead and let the children see it.
In the spring, when schools start offering Talking Point USA chapters in your local schools.
Turning Point,
whatever the hell it is. I don't want us to ignore it. I don't want us to protest it. I want everyone to tell their kids to join it, right? Join it and take it over, right? Why they want to come into our schools and saying, we will tell you what to think. Why don't we join those organizations, take it over completely, and make them do voter registration and everything else that we want? Like, because those school programs, they're just in the name, but ultimately what happens in those programs are decided by the students. Let's show them we outnumber them. Let's show them that Americans do not believe in this dogma of hate and segregation. Like, this is not what this country is about and never has been. The people who push hate are the ones who are un-American. They're the ones who do not represent the values that we all have collectively come to believe in. That this is a country, for all its faults, is a place that was built for the people and by the people. And that is the resounding message that we have to take back to everyone. You don't have to agree with our ideas. You don't have to agree with all our policies, but you have to agree that this country is for the people. Not for some of the people, not for a few of the people, but for all of the people. And that Democrats are the ones who are going to say, you may think we're wusses, you may think that we care too much about everybody, but that's exactly who you want in charge when things are bad. The people who will stop and think, let's make sure everybody's boat floats. Let's make sure every boat rises. Let's make sure everyone has food on the table. Everyone has opportunity. And if you are mad that you're a MAGA, you're in MAGA country, you are white, you're uneducated, you don't have like a college degree, you don't have the opportunities that everyone else has, and you're mad about it. Be mad at the situation. You need to tell them, stop pointing your fingers at immigrants, stop pointing your kids at LGBT people, stop pointing your fingers at Jews and Muslims. They had nothing to do with why your Tyson plant closed down. They have nothing to do why you can't sell your crops. They have nothing to do with why you're losing your home. And the day that they're ready to talk about why does my life actually suck, we will be right there and saying, Republican policies. The people that you have been voting for 50 years, they have been slowly taking your life apart in front of your face and then lying to you about it. Are you going to keep rewarding them for lying to you? And we need more people to say, hell no.
Representative Hinojosa closed us out tonight. And again, the question, we want a Texas where we don't just survive, we live and thrive.
Right, so here's why you went through that litany of culture war issues and you couldn't even finish it. Because what the strategy is to divide and distract, right? Distract and divide.
Absolutely.
Right, and so they, with one hand, distract us with the culture wars. With the other hand, they take our money to line the pockets of their donor friends. That is with everything. We talked about minority contracting. Why don't they want to do minority contracting? Because they don't want to be accountable or transparent for how your money is spent. Don't take my word for it. Greg Abbott, it was found about 2 months ago by an independent watchdog group, has given almost $1 billion in no-bid contracts to his donors, right? That is a level of corruption we haven't seen before ever in Texas, which is saying something. We are all paying the Greg Abbott corruption tax. And that's why we have to wipe the slate clean and start fresh and build back government that actually works for people and not for the special interests.
Thank you so much to all of our panel tonight. Let's hear it for Gina Hinojosa, candidate for Texas Governor. Vicki Goodwin for Lieutenant Governor, Joe Jaworski, candidate for Attorney General, and Texas House Democratic Caucus Chair Emeritus, Jean Wu. We're huge fans of all four of you leading us into the fight in 2026. Y'all, our annual holiday party fundraiser has been a lot of fun. I want to thank Shaping the Future supporter Charles Zeller, Fired Up supporters John Adair right over here, and Howard Cleon right over there. Be the Change supporters Alex Andrade, Scott Elphinstone, the Honorable Dick Levine, and the Honorable James Tallarico. Persistence supporters, the law offices of Domingo Garcia, PC, the Honorable Yasmin Simon, the People's Last Stand where we are tonight. Thank you, Jacob and staff. Board member Jason Smith and Sarah Pareda, Unified, and Jerry Yoss, and everyone else who supported our holiday fundraising efforts this year, including Representative Jasmine Crockett today, and a whole lot more. There's still time to become a monthly supporter, and anyone here in Dallas tonight who would like to step up, please do. We'd appreciate it, and same goes for you listeners out in podcast land. Aaron Moore, give me an assist. Hold up the annual report on your table. I didn't grab one. Supporters, please grab an annual report to read about your ROI. In 2025, we helped stop catastrophic legislation like Use It or Lose It, aimed at purging 4 million qualified voters. We sounded the alarm on racial redistricting. We got out the vote in November elections from North to Southeast Texas, where Dems and progressives flipped districts and advanced to runoffs. And we remain a cornerstone for honest, accessible, progressive news, crucial during attacks on nonprofits and public media. We are uniquely positioned to bring progressive powerhouses like these folks right here and Democrats to our motivated digital audience. We took an in-person Tallarico for Senate rally with a couple thousand attendees to 800,000 on one platform alone. And the biggest news of the night, if you haven't heard, we were just picked up on the radio dial in Houston on the FM dial. Radio was once the playground of Alex Jones and Rush Limbaugh, but Progress Texas is taking our message to voters in Texas's largest and most diverse city. And with your help, and I'm going to make eye contact around the room, with your help, we will replicate this effort in the top 5 media markets in 2026, including DFW, of course. There's so much progress to be made in 2026, and the work starts now. We are at 78% of tonight's fundraising goal. Please help us make our goal for this party by donating if you're a guest, or if you've already donated and you can give a little more, please do so. Happy holidays, everybody. Enjoy the evening, and we look forward to a great 2026 with all of you. Thank you.